Shalom, brothers and sisters in Yahusha HaMashiach. This is my first video, so please be kind. I'm doing the best I can at one, being on camera, and two, delivering something that I thought was just going to be for me, but there are others, there are brothers and sisters who have need of this message, so I was told. And in effort to be obedient, though delayed, because it's been on my heart and my mind for months, especially to do this. But I'm here now, I'm delivering now, and I pray to Yahuwah, our Father, that he brings around whoever else this is for, because it was for me too, whoever else this is for, especially well, I don't want to say just the younger brothers and sisters of the faith, because I'm not and I needed this at my ripe age. I won't say old ripe age, but I pray Yahuwah speak through me, not just me speaking, but he speak through me to you, brothers and sisters who are in a waiting season, specifically for a spouse. You're hoping and praying and looking to find your kingdom partner, and maybe you're going through heartache and heartbreak, and you're wondering why no one ever seems to choose you, seems to pick you, why things may fall apart in your relationships or in the relationships of people around you and stuff. Why you never seem to get that kind of happy ending, I guess, that Disney and Hollywood and all have sold us all for years. And you may be like, it's something wrong with me, and maybe I'm damaged goods and stuff like that. But this is for you as much as it was for me. So you're going to see me looking down. I have notes. I took notes. And what I want to start with is what he wanted me to start with is the difference between being seen and being recognized. Right? So to many of us, being seen is being recognized, but that's not exactly true. People can see you. They can, see that you have something on you that they might want to exploit, right? They might want to take advantage of. They can see, maybe that you're resourceful, that you're caring, that you're strong, that you're loving. They can see, that you're loyal, or any of those things. And instead of seeing you as worthy of love or anything like that, they take advantage of you, and leave you for, someone else. And I know there are some of us out there who feel like, as soon as our person, the quotes, there they are, our person leaves us, they end up settling down with the next person. Like they get married to the next person. It seems like there was an old movie called Good Luck Chuck, and I think Chuck had something like 7 girlfriends in the movie, and ex-girlfriends, 7 ex-girlfriends, and each ex-girlfriend, upon leaving him, went and married the love of their lives right after, right? But this is and nobody chose Chuck, right? Nobody chose Chuck. He was just like the springboard to everybody else's happiness. Cool. Okay. But, being seen does not always mean being recognized, and it's not even just romantic relationships. It could be, your job. It could be partners in business or whatever. They might see you as resourceful, use you for your ideas, and present them as their own or something like that, and try to push you to the curb or something. It might be that someone sees that you're resourceful, you get financing and things easy, and they use you for that. And, but they don't recognize that you have other skills outside of those things. You have other gifts outside of those things, and they just, use you for what they think they see and then move on. All right. So, with this, got all close in my face there. With this, I was led to certain scriptures in the Bible and instances in the Bible where people were seen, but they weren't recognized. And so David and Bathsheba, right? David seen her. Okay, she was trying to wash herself off and stuff, and he saw her from his window or his rooftop, and he was like, "Oh, she look good over there. She looking good over there." You want to go to 2 Samuel chapter 11 verse 2 to 27 for that. And he went, did his thing with her, and thought he was going to go about his merry way, go about his little life. He found out from her that she was pregnant. She got pregnant from their encounter. And he ended up trying to trick one of his homies into sleeping, her husband, which was his homie, into sleeping with her so that it could be said that the child was his, right? He could hide it. He tried 2 different times, and her husband, which was Uriah, he was so dedicated that while the soldier slept outside and the soldiers slept in the camp, he's like, "I'm not going to go home to my wife and enjoy my wife while we all out here, the men are out here suffering. I'm with you, King." He was his homie. So that didn't work. Twice it tried to get him drunk, tried to send him home drunk and married to his wife. He wasn't trying to have it. So he couldn't cover his tracks that way and ended up having to kill his friend. Then, Bathsheba gets pregnant with his child as a result of their adulterous meeting. And they lose the child. They lose the boy that was conceived from this wedding, or not wedding, this adulterous adventure between the two of them before he ended up marrying her after he had her husband killed on the front line. Just remember, the wages of sin is death. Okay? So the child had to die. That was the judgment against him. And the prophet, I believe Nathan, was the one who came and delivered the word to him that the child would have to go. So next one is Dinah and Shechem. Dinah and Shechem, that's Genesis 34 and 2. And Shechem saw Dinah and saw that she was pretty and didn't go about the right way of trying to marry her, trying to seek her father for her hand or anything like that. He went and handled his lust first, and then he fell in love with her. But he had taken her wrong, violated her, and then held her while he and his father went and gone to see, about trying to marry her proper. He asked his dad, asked his dad, get me her for a wife. So, okay, cool. As a result of what Shechem did, the city of Shechem had to be slaughtered. All the men in the city were slaughtered. And the sons, let's see, Dinah was a child of who would be called Israel, Jacob. And her brothers didn't like how she was handled, and they tricked the men, and they tricked Shechem and his father, and they said, "You get the whole city to circumcise themselves, and it's a deal. We'll take your daughters for wives. You can have Dinah. We'll be one people," and all that. And they waited till the 3rd day when all the men would be hurting real bad to attack. Then there is Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now, from what I understand, Joseph was extremely handsome. He was an extremely handsome man. And Potiphar's wife kept trying to get him in bed with her, to get him to lay with her. Let's see, that's Genesis 39:7-20. And when he didn't, she decided to lie on him and got him thrown into prison. She got him thrown into prison. And now there's a whole bunch of other sayings about, Potiphar had to know about his wife, had to know about how she was, because if he believed that, his wife was honorable and she was telling the truth, and Joseph had really tried to, take advantage of her, he would have killed Joseph instead of throwing him in jail. Let's see. Then Amnon and Tamar. Now that's 2 Samuel 13:1-17. And Amnon lusted after his half sister. He had a serious lust, just wanted her really, really bad, and tricked her into the room with him. Had her thinking he was sick and that he needed her care, and she was in there trying to care for him, and he snatched her up and raped her. She begged, don't do this, dad'll give me to you, and, do this right, do it right. But once he was done, he hated her. He despised her. He asked his servants to hurry up and get her out my room. Why is she still here? And that's crazy. So she goes into, basically mourning as a woman that lost her husband and stuff. And, her brother Absalom, he comes up with this plot, and he sat and he stewed in his anger and all that to have Amnon killed. David's family was a mess. Lust was a mess in his family. But Tamar was seen, but she wasn't recognized. And then you have, just to take it out the romantic end for a second, when David was going to be anointed king in 1 Samuel 16, verse 6-13, when he was supposed to be anointed king, he wasn't even invited to his coronation. All his brothers were lined up. All his brothers were, sized up and looked over, and, Jesse, his dad, and even Samuel, the prophet, was like, okay, surely it's got to be him. He's tall, he's handsome, he's strong, and all this other stuff. He's wise and this and that. And Yahuwah was like, no, not him. You see the outward appearance, but I see the inward. I see the heart. Okay, cool. Don't you have any other sons? And he's like, well, I have one, but he's like, he just, take care of the sheep and stuff. He's, he's little still and all that, trying to brush David off. David wasn't even invited to his own coronation. He was not even recognized by his family. He wasn't recognized by his own family. So it can happen outside of romantic relationships. Now, this one. Samson and Delilah. Okay, that's Judges. Judges chapter 16, verse 4-31. So, Samson loved Delilah. He loved him some Delilah, but she did not love him back. Okay, she saw him, but she didn't recognize him. She knew that he was strong. She knew that he, had a thing for her, but she didn't see him. She didn't recognize him, and that, I believe that's what made it so easy for her to sell him out as she did. With her luring him and tricking him into giving her the source of his strength, so the Philistines could run up on him and subdue him and capture him. So let's see. Now, all of these instances, all of these stories didn't have, like, we weren't given the ending, because we were not given what happened to Tamar, for example. We weren't given what happened to Dinah, aside from her being rescued by her brothers and taken home by her brothers from Shechem and the palace after they had slaughtered the men of the city. All of them don't have, happy endings where, like, Samson, though his hair grew back and he was given that one last instance of strength to be able to take out, I think it was, I don't recall the exact number of all the people who were in this palace for celebration, and he had pushed out the pillars and went with them. He met his end with them. But there are instances, right, like Bathsheba and David, where it did have a happy ending, and it ended up being that, Bathsheba birthed Solomon, suddenly tongue-tied, Solomon. And so this, and all these things that happen, I'm told to remind people of the verse in Romans 8:28. Though all of these were bad things that happen, Yahuwah works them out for the good of them that love him and are called to his purpose, right? So you might not see it now. If you're in the midst of your heartache, you might not see it now. If you're, of course, in the midst of waiting's hard, so you might not see it now. But all things work together for the good of them that love him. And we have instances that we can reference back to where, his grace, his mercy, his love, his kindness, his patience have worked together for the good of us that, love him and care for him. Though the enemy meant these things for, our demise, meant for them to destroy us, meant for, them to weaken us, right? So what are some of the other things that happened? Even though David, he went out, stole somebody's wife, had his friend killed, all that stuff, all that horrible stuff, he became the forever king of Israel, right? So we have a bunch of references to that, right? Like Psalms 89, verse 3-4, 34-37 in the same psalm, 2 Samuel chapter 7, 12-16. So there's a bunch of references that throne will not depart from David's house. The throne will not depart. He will always have a king in his house from David. And we have that king in Yahusha, right? Let's see. So the note on that is when we try to manufacture our own results, when we try to, we don't want to wait on the Father, right? We're impatient. We don't want to wait on the Father. We're going to try to, go out there and help ourselves because there's this false, not in the Bible at all verse that people like to quote, God helps those who help themselves. That's not in there. That's not in there. But we have issues and errors, right? Because we can't see. We don't have, all power. We don't have all knowledge. We don't have foresight. We don't sometimes even have the sight to see the signs and the symbols and the warnings right in front of our face, right? All of a sudden we got, I got glasses on and you're just blind as a bat, And so when we're just seen, we're not valued because we're not recognized, right? People see us, they might see bodies, they might see, a man or a woman who's well put together. They might see your wealth, an accomplished man or woman. Oh, that's somebody that's able to take care of me. That's somebody, I don't have to work hard anymore, or, I can live in luxury now because of this person and all of their resource, all that they have and all of that. And there's, one of the best examples of, what happens when we try to manufacture our own results. We have a promise from the Father, right? We have a promise that we're going to have a kingdom spouse. We have a promise that, we're going to have, the family. We have promises that we're going to have the ministry. We're going to, have these things that he promised us. And we get impatient. We're like, you know what? I'm going to help God out. I'm going to help God out. He helps those who help themselves, right? Because he never even told you to go there. He never even told you. He said he would do it, right? But you're impatient. So you try to make it happen yourself. And that would be Sarah and Abraham with Hagar. So I'm already old when I got the promise. I'm already old when I got the promise that I would be a mother. I would have a child. So he couldn't have meant out my own body. And it's been a while and nothing's happened so far yet. So let me help him out. And I'm going to give my servant Hagar to Abraham, and she'll birth a son for me. I'll have her have the child on my knees, and it'll be like I'm giving birth. Hagar gets pregnant, immediately hates Sarah. Immediately hates Sarah. Like her status and her modesty and all went from here to, she was like, I'm over you. You can't even give your husband a child. And the first shot, look at me, look at me, the first shot, and I got it. And it caused issues in the household. It caused grievance to Abraham. It caused issues and grievances and hurt to Sarah. And Hagar, I want to say twice, fled for her life. And she wasn't even like, this wasn't her plan. This wasn't her, like, I didn't want to have no kid with no old man. Like, I'm just doing what I was told. I'm, essentially a slave, right? So, either way, she didn't want to wait for the child that she was promised. It took 25 years. 25 years for that child of promise to come. And a lot of turmoil, a lot of arguments, a lot of anger, all because she tried to manufacture her own promise. So, and it's not necessary. I am not saying that you're bad or she's bad for trying this, because this is basically human nature. We wait for stuff, and then our level of patience is what it is. And if we don't see it, we start to get to thinking, or the enemy starts to get to whispering, you should do this, you should do that, you should make it happen yourself. Okay, so we are supposed to place our trust, our hope, our everything in Yahuwah and wait on him. Wait on him. He's not slack concerning his promises, right? So then there's examples, of course, of people who were recognized. And what's the difference of being recognized, right? So I'm going to start with the first one that, I know of, and many of us know of, which is when Eve was introduced to Adam. When Eve was introduced to Adam, he said, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. He said, this mine, immediately, right? No guessing. And I mean, of course, they were the only two around them, but there was no guessing. He didn't present her to him and say to him, here's your wife, right? He called her that instantly. He assigned her that instantly. He recognized that was her position in his life. That was her purpose. That was her job, I guess you can say. But that was her gifting. That was her blessing. That was his blessing, that he now has this wife. And he said, for this reason, man shall leave his mother and father, leave his family, and cling to his wife. So that's how much he was in love with her. That's before the apple. I'm joking. I promise. But then you have when the servant went to find a wife for Isaac, right? And going back to the land of Abram's father and all, and his family rather, and sat down. This is Genesis 24, chapter 24. And the servant sat down to pray. And, in the middle of praying, so specifically, here comes Rebecca. And she is step by step answer to the servant's prayer. Just absolute answers to the prayer. But he had the job of now taking this woman and her caravan, her handmaids and stuff like that, back to Isaac. And it said, Isaac saw her. She was excited to see him and hopped up off her donkey and ran to him. And he loved her and made her his wife. He recognized her instantly. The servant didn't even get to tell the tale. I was praying and, okay, y'all gonna go off. All right. Then you have Jacob recognizing Rachel. That's Genesis 29, 7-30. And this man loved this woman so much that he worked 14 years for her. And it said of the first 7 that it was like nothing. The time just passed. Time flew past for him because of how much he loved her and how much he wanted to marry her, wanted to be with her. So he recognized her. Then you have Ruth and Boaz. And y'all all know that's like one of everybody's favorite love stories, right? Ruth and Boaz. And let's see, that's Ruth chapter 2, really all of chapter 2 and 3. So chapter 2, he talks about, he recognizes her character, not just her presence. Like, she already had a reputation because of how she came back to this people, to this strange land with her mother-in-law, though her husband had passed away. And there was nothing really her mother-in-law thought she could offer her. So she sent both of her daughters-in-law away to their own land. And Ruth was not having that at all. And everybody had talked about all the wonderful things Ruth did for Naomi. So he knew of her character. Then he saw how she, quietly worked the field. So he offers to protect her, provides her food, and restored her mother-in-law's land and stuff to her. And let's see. Of course, he married Ruth. And I just because a lot of it is like, it seems like it's outward. So not only did Boaz recognize Ruth, Ruth recognized him, right? And he mentions it, like how she could have gone after any young man. Look at all these young men around here and they're all strong and whatever, or, gone after a rich man, but she didn't. She chose him and he chose her. They recognized each other. And he mentions, her kindness, her character, her reputation. I know that you are a good woman. He said that. How many of us been waiting to hear that, right? And then there's Esther and King Xerxes. Now that is in the particular portion I'm going to mention is in Esther chapter 2, verse 17. So in that particular chapter, in that particular reference, the moment he saw her, the whole pageantry and all of trying to find a wife was done. He saw Esther, he recognized her immediately and gave her the position and the crown as his wife and queen. Immediately. And of course, because of her favor with King Xerxes, she was able to end up saving her people. And so, honestly, when you're recognized versus seen, there's a couple of things that will be different, right? It's not to say that things will be effortless and they'll come easy to you and it'll all be, happy endings and, sunshine and lollipops and rose colored glasses. That's not the implication here. But things won't be as difficult, right? You won't be trying to sell and market yourself as, if we're talking about, purely romantically, right? You won't be trying to market yourself as the perfect wife or the perfect husband. You won't be trying to, basically battling upstream to somebody's heart because they'll recognize you. You'll have that access, right? You recognize them, they'll have that access with you, right? So it won't be the fight it is when you're basically trying to force yourself in a space that wasn't created for you. Whether it's a job that wasn't created for you and you're trying real hard to be a great employee and no matter what you do, there's no grace for you, no grace for your mistakes. There's no, sour attitudes and stuff towards you. That's not your place. You're not supposed to be there. And some of you know it, and you're being stubborn. You're being stubborn because you're comfortable. Some of you know that the relationship you're in, you're not supposed to be there, right? You're comfortable. You're comfortable. And some of you you think you just want a body there. You think you just want somebody around. And that's not true either because you're sad, right? You're sad that it's not what you think it should. You're unfulfilled, right? You're unfulfilled. You feel unloved. You feel like you're not getting the recognition and all that you should get or that you do give, right? So there's places and spaces that we try to manufacture, that we try to force ourselves into, and we're not meant to be there. And we may very well be out of Yahuwah's will by being there, by trying to stay there. And I feel like what I don't want to convey, what he doesn't want to convey is that, when your kingdom spouse sees you, it's going to be the best thing ever. And you're both going to have like heart-shaped eyes and, your heart beating out your chest like they do in the old cartoons and stuff. But there'll be a measure of confirmation there, right? Like you won't have to, Ruth didn't have to tell Boaz she was a good woman, right? Ruth didn't have to tell Boaz that she had integrity, that, she was kind and respectful and hardworking and, that she had love for Naomi and stuff. Like she didn't have to do any of that. Her character preceded her. Her behavior, her personage preceded her, right? And, initially I thought I'd be speaking specifically to women in this position, but I know there are men in this position as well. Men who have had women in their lives that they were like, they wanted her to be the one. They wanted the woman to be the one, and it didn't work out for whatever reason, whatever possible reason there might have been. But she likely didn't recognize you. She likely didn't recognize you. And you want to pray, brothers and sisters, men and women, you want to pray, right, that you don't fall into the counterfeit, right? That you are recognized and that you're able to recognize the person that he has for you, if that's what you're waiting in your waiting season for, right? That's specifically the people I'm talking to. If you're in the waiting season for your kingdom spouse and all, you want to pray because we've been through so much hurt. We've been through so much heartache. We've been through so many lies, so many disillusions, so just so much crushing, right? That we either, we either go for the first train running, and that means, we take on the first, person that shows any kind of interest. We don't wait to see, is this person for me? Is this the person? We don't even ask him. Like, is this the person you were sending for me, Father? Is this it? We don't even ask him. We just take hands and run, right? And then you have the other ones who are so hurt and so broken that, the one could come around and they would essentially rip them apart because they haven't done the work, taken the time to heal from the counterfeits that they had before. So now they can't even see the real deal in front of them because they got walls, they got, they done took their glasses off. They lack the discernment in the spirit to be like, okay, you might be it, or they're just so, disenfranchised that they're like, there is no it, there is no the one. And that one could be right in front of you. That one could be trying, and we tear down the gift that he's given us, in our hurt, in our anger, in just our unhealed state, that we tear down the person that he sent for us because we have been torn down so many times, right? So you want to, get to the Father and get to praying. For one, that you heal, that you forgive, that you're cleansed of these experiences, and like really, really doing that work with him of like letting go, of forgiving, of healing, so you don't bleed on the next person, right? Or you don't walk around with blinders on. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to see anybody else. I don't want to do this anymore. Love sucks. It's an illusion, and all those other crazy things we try to tell ourselves, when what's in our heart is in our heart for a reason, right? It's in our heart to, want that kingdom spouse. It's in our heart to want that connection. It's in our heart to, give love, and we want very much to receive love. And the only person we're lying to when we make statements like, oh, I'm done with relationships, I'm never doing this again. And the only person we're lying to is ourselves. We already know. If you're in this season where, you have this healing to do, you also have preparation to do, right? We have these ideals in our head, heart, and mind of our perfect partner, of what, we would like to have in our lives as far as love and affection and support, protection, all that stuff. We have to become people who can receive those things, right? We have to become people who can hold those things. So if, like, you're a woman, you should be looking to, become the Proverbs 31 woman, basically. And, Proverbs 31 for one, and just, have that relationship with Yahuwah, right? We're all married. We are all married, whether we realize it or not. We're all married. We're single in the world. We're single in flesh, but we are married to the Father. The Father's our husband, right? So, you want to make sure you're carrying that relationship right? Make sure you're showing up to that one right. Make sure you have the communication you need with him. Make sure he knows you love him. Make sure he knows that you're not just looking for his hand. Make sure you're spending time with him. And that's how you're going to learn of him. That's how you're going to learn of yourself, because even though we live in these meat sacks for however many years we live in them, we don't truly know ourselves outside of him. Right? And you'll be able to get the forgiveness. You'll be able to get, the healing. You'll be able to get the love and the blessing, and you'll be able to give it when it's time. right? You'll be able to get the grace that you never got in your previous relationships, right? You'll be able to give the grace that you might not have been able to give in your previous relationships because you went from scar to scar to scar to scar. You just kept going, right? So if you're in this season, pray, because the enemy has counterfeits ready to step up, mess up, and to take up more of your time, more of your energy, to break the pieces of your heart that you think hadn't been broken. You know how we always say we got to pick up the pieces ourselves. We don't. He's there to pick them up with us. Yahuwah is there. He's near to the brokenhearted. That's in the Psalms. And we don't have to pick them up ourselves, right? So the enemy is always standing by, ready for a counterfeit to whatever promise the Father's given to you. If he's promised you, this wonderful job, gainful employment or whatever, here comes the enemy with a counterfeit job that ends up being one of the most stressful things you ever taken on. But I don't want to digress. The enemy's always ready. Remember, his thing is to steal, kill, and destroy. He can destroy your dreams, kill your dreams, steal your time, your effort, your love, your energy, your hope. He's going to. If he can do those things, he's going to. So stay prayed up. So women, you want to look after becoming a Proverbs 31 woman, being a good wife to the Father first, right? And then men, I believe it's Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5 that talks about, loving your wives as Yahusha loved the church, that you be ready to lay your life down for her and consider, what it is to be a good husband, right? Have a good relationship with the Father. Consider what it is to be a good husband. If you have hope of having children or you already have children, how are you fathering them? How are you stewarding them? And how are you taking care of things? How are you protecting yourself, your children, your future wife? What are you going to do? How are you going to provide? All those kinds of things, right? Women, how are you going to take the things that they provide and multiply them? That's, our thing. You give us a house, we make it a home. Give us groceries, we make meals, right? Those kinds of things. You give us, give us children, we make legacies. Right? We build generations. So you want to make sure that you're a person who could steward the things that you're asking the Father for. The waiting season is that period to examine yourself, examine your heart, to prepare. You prepare and to serve. That's what waiters do. Waiters serve. I am going to close it out here because I could talk. It's probably been like nearly an hour and it's almost 2 a.m. where I am and I have a cold. But when you're told to do something, make sure you do the thing he's asking you to do. Sick or not. My nose is red. Kind of can't see it thanks to the light. But, I'm praying, that this blesses who it was for. I know it's partly for me as well. I pray that you, be blessed by it and, seek the Father, of course, for what he would have you to do with this information, especially if it touched your heart in any kind of way. Be blessed, be strong, and seek the Father. Seek him always anyway. And I pray for your strength. I pray for your patience. I pray, of course, for revelation and for your blessings from the Father, more confirmation from the Father, and that you just trudge on, this long, narrow path that we're following with the Father, that he give you strength, that he give you peace of mind and heart, and that you guard your heart, your mind, and guard what you say, watch what you say. And thank you for attending my TED Talk. And will you be blessed in the name of Yahusha. Amen.